Have you ever heard of the Asch Conformity experiment? It's an interesting one. So basically, I'll give you a rundown, and you can look it up later. But essentially, what they did was they would put 10 people in a room, 9 of which they know what's going on. They're in on the experiment. 1, they don't know what's going on, and they would ask everybody a question with an obviously correct answer. I think what it was, they would have a sheet of paper with a line on it, was a certain length, and a second sheet of paper with 3 lines on it with different lengths. But one of them is the same length as the first paper, and it's obvious, right? And then, so what would happen is the 9 people would give their answer first, and it was the wrong answer. It was the same wrong answer. And then the 10th person, what they found in 75% of cases, that 10th person would give that same wrong answer, even though it was obvious. And so they conformed to the group. That was basically the findings, is people would conform to the group, and they would kind of do what everybody around them was doing, and I guess to fit in or whatever, right? So it's very interesting. And so the good news is 25% of people thought for themselves, I guess, enough to answer the question, obviously correct, and but what does this have to do with the Tesla stuff? All that stuff going on with that, and why am I even talking about it? Well, this touches on things that we've talked about before on the channel, and I'm kind of big on this, right? When I go into it, information bubbles and cars. Obviously, I've talked about electric cars, given my thoughts on it, and information bubbles is a thing I'm huge on, because I think the internet is kind of dividing people down into these groups, and I think it's I don't know. I've just talked about the potential dangers of that, right? I guess, if you will, because the internet used to be like, when it was in its wild west or whatever, you would look for information, you would find it, and people that were interested in the same things would come together, but they wouldn't be drawn together, like they are today with the information. I guess you would call it information bubbles, whatever you want to call it, but they're basically the compartments that people are in on the internet. And if you don't know what's going on with the Tesla stuff, they're being, so basically, I'm not going to get too into it, but you can look it up. Just look it up, and you'll see article after article after article right now, in today's era right now, of Teslas being, vandalized, dealership service stations being literally attacked kinetically. People are keying people's cars and stuff. It's crazy. And this is coming right now, this is coming from the political left. And and there's a question right now as to whether that should be considered terrorism or not, and we'll look at that too. I'll try to keep this as kind of short as I can, but we'll talk about these things. And so, why do I think the Asch experiment is connected to to the Tesla thing, right? That's not society. Society as a whole doesn't just hate Elon Musk blindly. I mean, these people are doing this because they don't agree with Elon Musk, and they think that things are going on, or that they need to, this is some kind of a protest or whatever. Now the irony of it is that it's not the smartest thing in the world. First of all, these cars have something called Sentry mode, so they have cameras everywhere, and they record everything that's going on around the car. So everybody that's doing this, and it's kind of funny, but it's sad, really, but the people that are keying the Teslas and stuff, they're on camera, on camera doing that, and then obviously there's a lot of surveillance footage of the other stuff that's going on, the more kinetic and like high intensity attacks, essentially, on dealerships and service stations. Now, first of all, as a car guy, Teslas have never really been, in my opinion, at least I never really thought of them as part of the car community or car culture, but I guess they are. I mean, at this point in time, they've kind of cemented themselves in history, kind of a place in car history, if you want to call it that, right? And so I'm not the biggest fan of electric cars necessarily. I've talked about this. I've talked about some of the issues with them, but then again, I've also said that I'd like to, if they were cheap enough, and it might be a good like 4th or 5th car, and it could be fun. And I'm not against people. Also, I'm not against people having the ability to choose. The thing I was against back then was this was like last year, and they had these mandates that they were talking about, where you would have to buy an electric car, and I didn't agree with those mandates. I think everybody should have the choice to do what they want to do, and I actually kind of think it's really cool that we live in a time where you can buy a diesel, you can buy a gas car, you can buy an electric car, and you know, you can pretty much, it's really, you know, we think about the 90s, well, must have been awesome because you had all these import cars and you had muscle cars were more available. You could still find some of the old ones and all these old times, and then people talk about the 60s, 70s, whatever. But, you know, one of the cool things about where we live now, try to find that, right, is that we have the choice of all these different levels of technology. So while I don't agree necessarily with the Teslas being centrally connected to the dealership as much as they are, you know, I don't like maybe the way they built them as much. It is an American car company, which I think is cool, and they're fast. You know, the Plaid is fast, one of the fastest, basically straight line. You know, very impressive car. So I think that's pretty cool in that regard. And honestly, if they got cheap enough, people keep selling them off, and they get cheap enough. I mean, and if I had the extra money, I would consider picking one of these things up cheap as like a 4th or 5th car. Probably park it away from the house a little bit, but you know, just to have fun in, right, and to see what you could do. And if in the future, if they can be modified to become less centralized to the dealership, I might be into that, right? Now I'm sitting in a 93 Honda Civic, and I love this car. You know, so to me, cars were like peak car in the 90s, but I do think it's cool that we have all these options running around, and if we see hydrogen added to the mix, I mean, that'd be even cooler. I like the variety. So anyway, that's getting off the subject there, but the attacks, right? Is it terrorism? What does it have to do with the Asch Conformity experiments? Because that's just people being asked a question, whether it's correct or incorrect answers that you get. So what does that have to do with what's going on here? And you know, you kind of have to almost like link these things up. But the way, since I've been looking at the information filter bubbles, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to use that term, for a while, and I've talked about it. I have a history on this channel talking about that, and how and I think I even said if there was a, you know, civil WAR, it would probably come about because of these filter bubbles, because you know, one person's information, they're seeing the world in a whole different way. It's like a whole different reality. They're not seeing a lot of the information that's coming to the other group, right? And they're seeing information that's not going to the other group. And then there's you know, if there's Reddit feeds and things like that, they're quite radical, right? And if you stay in that all day, you stay in that group online, that's your group. That's your 10 people in that room in the Asch Conformity experiments, the way I'm seeing it right now. And so that's the thing. So you have these information bubble groups that people have been put into, right? And it's, you know, there's right and there's left, there's political ones, but there's technological ones, there's, you know, there's all kinds of different, you know, kind of groups. I mean, there's people that like technologies from the 1800s, right? And they're in the group. So in a way, this is not necessarily bad. It's not bad. It's great to connect with people that are interested in the same things you're interested in. It's just when it comes to the point of political ideologies, it gets sketchy. This is what's happening. So, and you definitely, this is, and my whole point of this is why you want to open your sphere of information, especially when it comes to what's going on in the world and things like that. You don't want to just have that same echo chamber. You definitely want to listen to more than just the people that agree with you. Even if you don't believe necessarily what you're hearing, you want to be able to discern it. You want to be able to think for yourself. So you need as much information as you can get to do that. And yeah, just the people around you are not always going to be able to make the right decisions. A lot of people would say, because one of the things about this Tesla thing is like, it's the left doing it, and they would say it's not everybody, but it's not everybody on the left, right? So a lot of people think that's a dumb idea, and I think it's a dumb idea, right? What they're doing is bad, and you're attacking individuals' cars, first of all. When you attack a service station, that's people's cars, not Tesla's cars. They don't belong to Elon Musk. You're not even hurting his property at that point. It's almost like they're probably going to get more business out of it. It's kind of dumb what you're doing. But, you know, the violent nature of it, the question becomes, is it terrorism? And, you know, I'll look at it like this. Like, so if we look up terrorism, we'll do this real quick. If you just ask Google what terrorism is, it says terrorism is use of violence or threats of violence to achieve political, social, or ideological goals. It can refer to the fear and submission terrorism causes. So it's intimidation. You know. Anyway, yeah. So, in the broadest sense, is the use of violence against non-combatants to achieve political or ideological aims. The term is used primarily to refer to blah blah blah, whatever. Anyway, so use of violence to persuade people. I believe the idea with the Tesla thing is, and there's groups, there's even a website that had them marked out, like all the Tesla owners on the map, like their address, and it had like a Molotov cocktail as the cursor and all this. Now I'm not going to tell you which that is because I'm not trying to promote that. I don't even know if it's up anymore. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be up anymore. My goodness, dude. If it is, we got a problem, right? So what I'm saying is like, that sounds like terrorism to a degree. So should they charge these people with terrorism? I don't know, but it's you're borderlining on it. And a lot of people would say, well, didn't the right do something kind of like that on January 6th? And I would say, well, that comes back to the Asch Conformity experiment because, people that went in the building, whether they were agents, whether they were just angry people or whatever, the people that followed them, I mean, probably a lot of people that did do that didn't end up thinking they didn't begin the day thinking that was going to be the case. So they did the Asch Conformity experiment thing. They conformed to the group and went along with it. So yeah, I mean, maybe that is the case, but two wrongs don't make a right, obviously. And so yeah, this is an issue, man. With the information bubbles, I think, like I said, they're getting maybe worse. You would think with technology we would have the ability, because you can see what's going on in other countries, you can see what other people are saying, you can listen to other, points of view. You would think people would do that more, but I think people kind of go to their comfort zone. I'm starting to think I'm maybe one of the only people that just because I will look up things that I don't necessarily agree with. I just want to hear what they're saying, and I might still think they're nuts, right? I still kind of think that sometimes, but I'm like, okay, so at least I hear what you're saying, and now I'm going to kind of think about how you could come to that conclusion, right? So whether you have a problem with a political figure or not, we live in America, so you have the right to, you can vote, you can peacefully protest. There's a lot of things to do, but when you mess with somebody's car, man, that is a serious offense. Like in my book, right? You don't mess with people's car. You know how special that is to that person, and it's kind of interesting too because it's the left doing it. Well, dude, up until last year, sometime the people on the left were the people who liked the Teslas, right? Who liked electric cars, and the leading electric car in the country is the Tesla. So that's interesting, right? It's just like you're probably attacking people who voted for the same person you voted for. They probably also disagree with this, something that you disagree with, but you're now you're keying their car. Quite pointless, man. I mean, really. So so as from a car standpoint, we talk about cars all the time. Leave people's cars alone, man. It's not fair to do it. Now I know it's just a thing, it's just an object, but dude, somebody worked hard to get that vehicle. Somebody, that's their time in their life. You're taking time away from that person's life essentially when you vandalize the vehicle that they spent so much time and energy working for. So it's crazy. So is it terrorism? Let me know in the comments what you think. Is that terrorism, vandalizing the dealerships and targeting them politically? Because remember, it's politically motivated. Whether you agree with Elon Musk or not. Now, I think in theory, waste in the government is obviously a bad thing, and I've always thought the government was too big anyway. So I'm interested to see how this goes with all the Doge stuff. But and I have my own opinions on Musk and whatnot. I'm separate from that. And some of the other things that he's in. But when something good is happening, something I think it's a good thing. I don't care who's doing it. And if something is bad that's going on, then we should talk about it, right? Like, obviously. But there's other ways to go around that without messing with people's cars, man. Right? That's just messed up. So, do you think that this is a case of conformity, like it was in the Asch Conformity experiments, within people's information groups, information bubbles, they're being grouped down, so they have a group mentality, and they're basically, because a lot of people are defending this, there's probably a lot of people defending it that wouldn't actually do it, but they're defending it. Maybe they would do it if they thought they could get away with it. And it's sketchy, because if you take it out to the, the farthest degree, and you have people on both sides of whatever altercation or whatever misunderstanding that you have doing this, then you just have shots being fired back and forth, and that's not good. That's called a WAR, right? We don't want that. That's obviously not something we want. But yeah, so car community, Tesla, I said it. Tesla's, you have cemented a place in the car community and car culture. It's a unique place. It's a different place, but it's a place nonetheless. And I would even consider owning one if it was cheap enough, and messing around with it, right? That'd be kind of fun. But anyway, the video is going way too long. Let me know what you think about this, guys. Let me know what you think about the Asch Conformity experiments. Do you think it has anything to do with what's going on now, psychologically? I think people are just kind of a little bit unhinged. Is it terrorism? Let me know in the comments. Catch you guys on the next one.